Voice of Change News.
This is Voice of Change Radio News. I'm Amanda Kumalo. A quick look at stories making the headlines. President salutes Tomana, confers him with national hero status. In business news, gold tokens to become medium of exchange RBZ. In regional and international news, ambassador to support artist Jam's trip to Brazil. In sports news, government to address stadium crisis. The news in detail. President Mnangagwa yesterday conferred national hero status on Ambassador Johannes Tomana and explained that events leading to his death were symbolic in that they suggested a premonition of his passing on. He said Ambassador Tomana traveled to his rural home in Honde Valley, Manicaland province, despite a mild illness to lay a wreath on his parents' grave and later called upon his church members to come and pray for him. Something he said showed that he was preparing for his death. President Mnangagwa said this yesterday while addressing mourners at the residence of Ambassador Tomana, where he and Vice President Dr. Constantino Chiwenga and ZANU-PF Vice President and Second Secretary Comrade Kembo Mohadi had gone to convey their condolences. In other news, the Second Republic's commitment towards improving the country's health delivery was on show yesterday as President Mnangagwa commissioned a magnetic resonance imaging center and handed over a wide assortment of medical equipment and vehicles that will be distributed to hospitals and clinics across the country. President Mnangagwa has continued to stress the importance of healthcare delivery as an enabler of the country's economic development and ultimately the achievement of national goals including Vision 2030. Consequently, the President's administration has taken a deliberate step to restructure and reform the public health system as increased access to health services for all Zimbabweans is central to universal health coverage. Speaking at the commissioning held at the MRI Center at the Parenyatwa group of hospitals, he said that the Second Republic was committed to meeting Zimbabweans' health needs. Meanwhile, election observers who are audaciously interfering in the country's electoral processes by openly hobnobbing with some presidential candidates will be deported without any hesitation, the Deputy Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Mr. George Charamba, has said. This comes as some individuals with a checkered history in observing elections in a number of countries came to Zimbabwe under the umbrella of the United States government-funded Carter Center and have recently been addressing rallies held by the opposition. In business news, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, RBZ, is finalizing the modalities of rolling out the gold-backed digital tokens as a medium of exchange for domestic transactions to complement the US dollar, Governor Dr. John Mangunja has said. Presenting the mid-term monetary policy statement yesterday, Dr. Mangunja also projected inflation to ease this year, with the annual rate expected to end the year at between 60 and 70%, while maintaining the key bank policy rate at 150%. That is the minimum rate of interest on loans by commercial banks. In news beyond our borders, the ambassador of Brazil to Zimbabwe, Mr. Vilma R. Coutinho Jr., has pledged support towards renowned visual artist Rafael Jam's cultural exchange trip to Sao Paulo. Jamu is set to travel to Brazil in September is fundraising for the 2-week-long trip that will see him participate in cultural activities being facilitated by Instituto Regate. Instituto Regate is a collective of artists and professionals that organizes social events and cultural campaigns to collect food, clothes, and toys to help underprivileged communities. Jam was invited in his capacity as Zilok Arts Foundation founder and president and will be traveling with key executives from his organization. And finally, in sports news, President Mnangagwa has expressed concern about the stadium crisis that is gripping the country, which has seen Giants Dynamos and a number of Harare-based teams having to travel to other cities and towns to play their home games. Currently, there are no top-flight football games being played in Harare because of a lack of suitable stadiums. The president's comments came as Zimbabwe, the country's most successful and one of the most supported clubs, have been forced to adopt Baba Fields as their home ground for the first time in the club's 6 years of existence. Addressing a massive gathering of ZANU-PF supporters in Harare yesterday, the president said government have taken up the responsibility to revamp the ceremonial home of domestic football so that top-flight games are played in Harare again. That brings us to the end of this bulletin.
Voice of Change News.